If you've ever found a beautiful stone on the ground or by the side of a river and wondered, can I make money selling this stone? Well, if you've thought about it, then this video is for you. First of all, you should know that you're not the only one, because many people around the world have asked this question and are asking it in the comments of the videos here on the channel. So feel free to tell us what country you're from in the comments. But to cut through the bull and be more direct, is there any way to sell that rock you found out there? And when I say that, I'm not talking about a precious, ultra-rare stone. I'm talking about that simple but very beautiful stone you found out there. Well, to simplify things, there are cases where you can buy some uncertified gemstones online and have them delivered to your home. This would be the easiest way to sell. I've given this tip in several other videos and we've already talked about it. But from the questions you ask here on YouTube, I can see that there are many interesting questions on this subject that can help you. However, when it comes to selling these stones online, you'll find that there are some issues that I want to help you with. Besides, I'm not talking about professional prospectors here. This information is for you who are not a professional, who are starting from scratch and have never heard of this subject, but who like to walk through nature and end up finding stones that you find interesting. Some are even beautiful, and then you think maybe they have some value. Of course, that's perfectly possible if you know how to do it right, because if you don't, there are lots of home tests you can do to identify the stone you found out there. But now I want you to forget the distractions around you for a few seconds and imagine with me that you're walking around your grandfather's farm in a rural area with rivers in the middle of nature. In that moment, you remember the things you learned in this video, and you immediately start looking at the ground around you until you find a beautiful blue-green stone, or maybe red with lots of different colors. Either way, it's a very beautiful stone, so you think, maybe I could make some money selling this stone, but is anyone interested in buying it from me? But after a little thought, another question comes up. How am I going to do that if I don't even know what this stone is? Well, this happens a lot, and the truth is that many real stones, if they were precious stones for mining, you would need a government permit to explore an area and everything else depending on the country you're from and the amount of stones you find. Here on the channel, there are many videos that talk about this issue of exploration, how to identify more specific types of stones like diamonds, which I'll even leave a shortcut for you to watch at the end of the video. In this case, we're talking about something more casual, more simple, that if you find an interesting stone out there, maybe you can make some extra money to support this hobby, to pay for the gas for the trip, or things like that. A hobby that is very interesting, by the way, and gives us a wonderful contact with nature, and I don't know if that's the case for you. Many of the subscribers to our channel find very beautiful stones in nature, including rubies and diamonds of the highest quality. Some of them sell these gems and make good money. And before the haters say I'm encouraging people to look for diamonds in their backyards, I'm not saying you're going to get rich overnight with the stones you find, but it is possible and it can happen if you find the right stone. As my late grandfather used to say, the son who seeks finds. Now you need to understand how to do this. And the first step I always recommend, of course, is to identify the stone you want to sell, or at least the type of stone you find, for two main reasons. The first is so that you don't ask too high a price that is incompatible with selling that piece, because then you end up empty-handed without being able to sell anything. And secondly, if you take the stone to a specialist to have it analyzed, make sure it's a trustworthy person, so you don't end up offering a very high-quality stone for a very cheap price. To do that, you must know the stones, and unfortunately, there's no way around it. That's why I always talk about our Gemology for Beginners book, which is always available at the link in the video description. It's a perfect book for anyone who wants to start learning how to identify gemstones. Because it's a digital book, you get all the updates for free, and you don't have to wait for them to come to your house, so you have access to quality content with hands-on testing no matter where you live. There's nothing better on the internet for that price. But in practice, most of these stones that we find in the ground without digging, practically or semi-rounded, will usually be from the quartz family. And I can guarantee this because there are a large number of stones in the quartz family. The appearance of each mineral is related to its chemical structure. For example, quartz crystals form hexagons with 6 sides, and they usually form a pyramid at the top. This shape is very common in nature and in different sizes. You can also find jasper, agate, chalcedony, petrified wood, quartzite of different colors. And they all belong to the giant quartz family, although they are very different stones with different market values. To sell these stones, you must learn to separate them. There are usually two basic uses for a stone. The first is a stone that will serve as a collection, which means it will serve or be beautiful in its raw state as you found it. Or if it's broken, that fragment of the stone, if it's beautiful on its own, doesn't need to be cut. The value is in the beauty of the piece or the rarity of it as it was found in nature. The second purpose of interest for sale is to make handicrafts or for cutting, where the jeweler will transform rough gemstones into more expensive jewelry, depending on the level of cutting. So you have to keep this in mind. Knowing that, you can have an idea that stones with a more vivid color, or those that are more crystalline, will be more interesting for making jewelry because they will look more beautiful. And stones that have that distinctive look that aren't worth breaking to cut will be more suitable for collecting. Of course, this is not all there is to it. There are other subtopics to talk about, but for now, knowing this much will help you a lot. You'll have to take these stones and sort out which stones you find would make good collector's stones and which stones would make good lapidary stones. You're also going to sort them by color: white stones, black stones, green stones, red stones. Sort by color, sort by type, even if you don't know the stone, because then it will be easier for you to identify it. We've made several videos here on the channel about identifying stones by color that will help you identify your stones. Once you've sorted them out, you need to take good pictures of your stones and advertise them on the sales channels. The one I recommend the most is Amazon, but you can also advertise on the Facebook Marketplace. Believe me, there's always someone interested in buying the stones you find in your area. What may be commonplace for you may be a rarity for people from other regions, from the United States. For example, this stone here is a jasper, which is found in many rivers around the world. A jasper or petrified wood stone like this might be worth $10, $20, $40 a piece if you wanted to sell it by the piece. But imagine if you had a large property, you could have several of these stones spread out over a large area, making it much easier to have several available to give away. You can have a scale to sell your stones by weight. You can also define your stones by their appearance and the reality of their beauty. Some stones have a brighter, more intense color and are harder to find, and they may have a slightly higher value. You can also sort stones by kilograms. This is a good tip for selling stones by the kilo, especially for cutting and crafting. For example, you can separate several small black stones, several carnelian agates, the orange kind you find in rivers. You can sort these stones as you would sort beans by type. Think of the sorting first, and then think of the value of the stones. And to advertise on the internet, which I always recommend, learn to take good pictures of your stones. Take good, clear photos with a white background so people can see the details of the stone. Don't put light behind the stone or use the camera's flash. The best light is ambient daylight. Take photos outdoors, holding the stone in your hand with some grass in the background. The important thing is to show the details of the stones. And in the description, you need to talk about the characteristics of your stone, such as weight, size in centimeters, color, and any other details you notice about the stone. There's no point in trying to sell a stone if you don't know exactly what it is. So if you still don't know or are unfamiliar with the type of stone, I suggest you keep watching our videos here on the channel. Buy the book, Gemology for Beginners, while it's still available, and start identifying stones in nature. At this point, you really need to put in a little effort on your own. You really have to start learning, because all the tips are already there. The first step by step, the way to sell a stone you found is this. But the great thing about a lack of knowledge is that a person can end up selling a stone, or trying to sell a stone, for far less than it's worth. Meteorites are a fascinating example of how something seemingly ordinary can hide extraordinary value.
With the clean white, I think already you can see a few of the phases in there. It's already starting to etch nicely.
Often these space rocks go unnoticed because of their unattractive appearance and can be mistaken for ordinary terrestrial rocks. However, when properly identified, meteorites can be extremely valuable, not only for their scientific potential, but also for their commercial value. These fragments of space can contain vital information about the history of the solar system and even life in the universe. So while they may seem insignificant at first glance, meteorites are a powerful reminder that true value often lies beyond the surface. So we need to pay a little attention to these details. If you're new to the channel, follow us now to learn a little more. You can't learn overnight, it's a process, but you will learn a little more every day. This subject is very cool, it's interesting, and once you learn how to identify rocks in nature, it's addictive. Many people discover that they like looking for rocks in nature after learning and end up creating this hobby. You should know that the rock market is one of the biggest money makers in the world. And even if you work as a craftsman, you can make a lot of money just by collecting stones without harming nature. And you also have the chance to support a hobby by making a little money and even turn it into a source of income, especially if you find a very large and colorful diamond, in which case you can be sure that your retirement will be guaranteed. And if you want to know how to identify diamonds, just watch this video. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Good luck, gem hunters!